She thought she was going to get in trouble for having her boyfriend come out for the weekend or the duration of the blizzard. But I said, well, that's okay. I didn't mind. And I've had the privilege of making Brad's 18th birthday cake and having him out for a birthday party. Mary wanted to know if we could do that, and I couldn't see any reason why we couldn't. So I made a cake, and David came, and Bob was there, and all the kids gave him something, and we had a nice birthday dinner for Brad on his 18th birthday.
Okay. Now,
My words to you are always be happy, love each other, be good to each other, and you'll always be good friends. Frank and I were good friends before we ever got so we decided to be partners. And so love each other and just be good to each other. And I pray for you that someday we'll meet up in heaven. I want all my children with me up there, and the good Lord knows this. And God has been so good to me through life. I just feel like all the scrapes I went through, fire, flood, death, don't make any difference what it was. I never went hungry. And God was always there to take care of me and my little chickadees. Amen. Dinah was a little girl that just never got in trouble. She never wanted a spanking like some of them. And she never got a spanking either. I don't remember ever spanking that girl. I called her Agnes once in a while, and that'd make her a little mad. She said, Mom, you know I don't like that name. Okay, Agnes, I won't do it no more. And but one time she got in the medicine cabinet and took one of Odie's pills, went to school, or else I gave it to her, I don't remember anymore, and went to school, and she got sick at school, and they brought her home and let her out of the car, and she fell flat on the ground. Well, I went out and picked her up and got her in the house, and I finally realized she took the wrong pill, and I don't remember now what it was, but she had the wrong pill. But she was always a quiet little girl, and didn't cause any trouble, just you know. And she played the bells when she was in school. Mrs. Dutton had those bells, and they'd ring with the song, you know. And she took the class into. She taught it in Wilrose, and then they could take private lessons for 50 cents a lesson. So she took lessons, and Mrs. Dutton took them into a cafe one time at Christmas time, and they played the bells. She took them into different churches, and they played the bells. And that was something Dinah really enjoyed. And then she grew on up, and she was a friend of Tracy Hodges, and I bought her a little white fur coat that she just looked adorable in. I suppose it was rabbit fur. I know it wasn't too good a fur. But then she lent it to the neighbors. I shouldn't say which one. And pretty soon, instead of it being a church-going coat, it was every day go to school, throw it in the back end of the car coat, and pretty soon it wasn't so pretty anymore. And then one time I bought her a pair of leather shoes, $14, and that was a lot when you can buy them for $1.98. And they were, I forget now whether they were Mary's or Dinah's, but anyway, they wore them back and forth. Pretty soon the shoes were missing. And Mary blamed Dinah, and Dinah blamed Mary. And I don't remember, it seems like they showed up one time several years later. I suppose they both outgrew them, but we finally found them. Anyway, let's see, she went out for cheerleading. Mary was a cheerleader. But Dinah didn't make it. One other girl got ahead of her. Other than that, she would have made it. And went through high school. We got her a car, an Opel, and she drove to school. And she'd go down and pick Tracy up. And then there was another girl in town. She had to go get her and take her to town. Well, one day she wasn't looking real good, and she smashed the car up. Well, that was the end of taking all these other girls to town, or getting them into high school. And she rode the bus for great while. And then she
Right.
was going to school in California to the college, and the college was way high on the mountain. They had to go up steps, several lines of steps before they'd get up there, 100 and some steps. And she was going with Ernie, and then they got married and had Rachel, and they lived up north of, up there by the medical center someplace. And then she went to work for Pepsi-Cola. Wanda McGinley called me and wanted to know if she could come to work. And so she went to work up there at Pepsi-Cola. She was working at another place as secretary, but then she worked as secretary for I don't know how many years. Then she and Ernie got married, and Ron hit the dope path, and I knew it. And I'd come up to their house unexpectedly, and Ernie'd gather up all his paraphernalia he had and run for the kitchen. And then the next week, I'd come in and he'd see me and he'd grab all this stuff and go down the basement. Then sometimes I'd just go in there and the fumes were just coming up from the basement. I could tell they were smoking pot. I thought, oh dear, what could I say? It wasn't my house. So, but evidently he smoked a little too much of it because he passed away. And of course Rachel misses him because he was good to Rachel. And Dinah still had fond feelings of when they were happily married. So that was brilliant. And then she met Les. She went working at Pepsi-Cola. She worked for Les, I think, as a secretary for 8 years. And then they got married. And Les is very good to Dinah. And I love Les. And he's a real good son-in-law. I gotta say that, a very good son-in-law. I popped him on the shoulder one time and I said, Les, there's just one thing wrong with you. And he smiled and those old white teeth just shined. And he says, okay, what is it? And I said, you're just too clean. And he just laughed. But he's spotless. I mean, everything has to be spotless. The car, the shirts, the clothes, the shoes. All the way through, he's Mr. Clean. And we get to see him, but not enough. So that's good. And they've got 2 little kids, Banner and Denzel. And one day when they were here, Denzel came up to me and he says, Grandma, I brought you something. He opened his hand and here's this little tiny doll, 2 inches long, a little princess. And I looked at that and I said, oh, Denzel, thank you so much. I'll put that in my kitchen window, and then when I look at it, I'll think of you. And it's still sitting there today yet, and he gave it to me several years ago. But one of the things Denzel does is when he comes in, he'll say hello. Now, Banner's more apt to love me than Denzel is, but Denzel will go straight to the kitchen and say, Grandma, can I help you cook? He wants to help cook all the time. So maybe he will be a chef. I don't know. But he always wants to stir, and it's at the stove where it's hot, and you might spill water or something, grease on him. So I kind of worry about him, but I hope he never gets burned.
Now, what about Banner?
And Banner is in school, and she's a straight A student, and we're pretty proud of that. We went to her first communion in Wichita, and we went to Denzel's first communion. And I've got the best cab driver in the world. He's over sleeping there now. He doesn't know what we're talking about. But Frank is very good to take me any place I want to go. And you know, that's a blessing. Well, Dinah, when you were a little girl and I was at the lamplighter, I'd come home and I'd crawl in bed and I'd feel something scratching on my head, and it was a piece of paper. And I'd get up, turn on the light, and I think Dinah left me a note again. And invariably there was a note on my pillow, and I was just ready, you know, I'd take a bath and then jump in bed, and I wouldn't think about a note. And then I'd get my head on the pillow and there'd be that note. Always a love note on that pillow for her mom. And I love these little notes. In fact, I've got some in there in the drawer yet today. And before the day's over, I think I'll go in there and read them, bring back old memories. And she'd tell me how much she loved me and all these good things. I should have brought one out and read it.
Yep.
Here's one of the notes that Donna, like Dinah used to leave on my pillow every night. She says, "Dear Mom, I love you so, and I know why you give me food to eat and to drink. You buy me something to wear, and you take me to church to pray to God. I pray and I pray and I pray so hard for us all, and for you and Donna and the two little boys. I love you and Donna. Love, Dinah." Then this is another night, I was saving this note, and then I wrote this on here. I said, "Dinah had this note pinned to my pillow one night when I came home from work. Fritz, I guess you don't need prayers. Anyway, she forgot you. Please send it back as I want to keep it. Often she has sweet notes pinned to my pillow, and I always enjoy them." And Dinah, you are so sweet to do that. I've got other ones in there, but I'd have to take a half a day to find them all. Dinah, I've always loved you. You've been my little helper. And when all the other chickadees had gone off the nest, there was just you and I left, and we'd go out every Sunday to eat, and we had good times. And I know there was times when I went to work that you were lonely, but you always had a babysitter. Either Bob would be with you, or David would be with you, or one of the Hodges girls. A lot of times Linda babysat. And Mary was there with you too, so. But you grew up to be a fine young lady. You've got a wonderful husband, a beautiful home, and two very good children, Denzel and Banner. You're good in school, and the children like you, and that's a blessing. I'm glad you're as popular as you are. Amen. Bill was born in 1954 at St. Anthony's Hospital in Dodge City, August the 7th. And this year I've forgotten your birthday, and I'm truly sorry. But you know how it is. I got canning apricots and jellies and jams and pickles and apples and pears and I don't know what all. And Frank told me it's Bill's birthday, but I said, yeah, but I'm busy right now. And then I'd forget. But you were a fun-loving boy, and you're still kind of fun-loving. In fact, Frank enjoys you an awful lot. He enjoys when you come down. And he married a nice girl, Joanne, and he's got some world champions in his family. And boy, that keeps him off the streets now, I'll tell you. Aaron is a jet ski driver, and he's done very well, second, well, he's got some awards, and I can't think what they are. And Brent is a yo-yo. Let's see. Well, Bill liked to go fishing. He was a little fisherman. And they had a scooter that Odie had bought him, and they'd put about five kids on that scooter, buckets, and go and fishing poles, and they'd go up to the dam in Willroads, and they'd go fishing there. And when the plums were ripe over by the Willroads Gardens elevator, they'd go over there and pick plums so I could make plum jelly. And they'd eat plums, and they'd pick plums, and they'd eat some more and pick some more. And finally got tired and hot, and they'd come home with their buckets and 4 or 5 kids on that scooter. None of them ever fell off, which is a wonder, because there was David, Donna, Bob, Mary, and Bill. And they even took Dickie on it one time up to the dam fishing. And I did have a picture of him sitting there on his haunches holding his little pole and waiting for a fish to come on, which never happened. But bless his heart, he was, okay, Bill. I used to worry about Bob, and I'd tell people, boy, if I ever get that Bob raised, I'll have it made. Little did I know that Bill was going to be out later and cause me more gray hairs than Bob ever thought of making. But he always got home. I think he slept with a Mexican one time, but he didn't know it. Tequila was really good that night. But anyway, he survived it. That's a funny story about Bill. He drank too much tequila, and he borrowed Bill, let's see, one of his buddies' pickups, and he drove it until he didn't know where he was, and he thought, well, that's my house there. So he got out of the pickup and he went in the house. Oh, he took his shoes off and left them in the pickup, and left the motor running, sitting in the middle of the street. Well, he went in that house and he crawled in bed. Well, you know, after so much tequila, it went to his head, and he didn't know where he was. Well, the next morning when he woke up, he looked out the window and he saw the church steeple up there, and he thought, well, where in the world am I? And he looked across the way. There was a Mexican in another bed, and he was in with a Mexican. He looked around for his shoes, and he didn't have any shoes, so he bailed out of there and got out of the house, went out on the street and got to figure out where he was, and he knew Joe Bell just lived up there a couple blocks, so he walked up to Joe Bell's place, and but in the middle of the night, the police found the car. Somebody turned it in that was out there running, and so they turned it in, and some people that knew him and knew me, they said, well, Bill Dellinger's mother works till 1 or 2 in the morning. Don't you call her in the middle of the night. And so they didn't call me, and so I didn't have to worry the rest of the night. But anyway, he was okay. He got out of that one okay. Oh, you want me to tell him about being a streaker? Bill was the first Dodge City streaker. And you know, he was such a modest child. Never would he come out of his door in his bedroom and without pulling on his jeans and just going around the corner into the bathroom. Now the rest of the boys would walk clear across the front windows, great big 4 windows, with their shorts on, with the lights on at night, and think nothing of it, but not Bill. He didn't leave that bedroom without his jeans on. So he was so modest, I thought, and he told me he was going to go streaking that night. And I said, don't you dare. Oh, I think I will, Mom. And I didn't think he would, because, boy, he never showed his underwear, much less everything. And so I went to work at the lamplighter, and sure enough, they were advertising on TV or on radio all afternoon. The streakers of Dodge City are going to be out on Wyatt Earp tonight. Be there down on Wyatt Earp at 9 o'clock and watch the streakers. And every little bit they'd advertise that. Well, a lot of kids all over town came down to Wyatt Earp and was lined up with people, kids, and other people. Anyway, Bill decided that he and his buddy would leave the car up at one end. And they had a certain street where he'd go off of Wyatt or up the hill, and then his buddy would drive the car up there. Bill would streak down through the Wyatt Earp, come up to the car, and get in it. So, anyway, I'm not sure I should be telling all this. But anyway, they got ready, and Bill could run like crazy. He outrun the police. They were trying. and so he ran down Wyatt Earp, but his buddy took the car and raced down there to get ahead of him and up there. Well, the police went after the car. One of the police cars went after the car. And the rest of them were running, trying to catch him. And so the police car drove right up behind him, and of course, as soon as the kid stopped, his buddy stopped with the car, there was a police car right behind him. Well, here comes Bill pretty soon. And they wanted him to get in the police car. He said, well, let me put my clothes on. He says, didn't seem to bother you going down the street. All he had on was his socks. So they let him put his pants on, took him down to the police station. And he said they were having a heck of a time down there. A bunch of kids were down there, and the police were all out on the streets. And he said they were taking pictures down there with a camera, shooting the moon and everything else. Oh, this Dodge City is rough. But Bill, I'll say one thing, you had your fun. And you really didn't hurt anybody.
So let's
So
do a closing.
now be good and pray for Mom and pray for your children. And you've got a good wife, a wonderful home, and a wonderful business. And I know you work awful hard. So enjoy life when you can. And it was sure nice seeing you out in in Montana this summer. And I pray for you, and I love you very much. And Joanne, I love you very much. I'm sorry I don't get to see as enough of you, though. But we try, and accept that you're just up there and don't come to Dodge much. And you're so busy with Brent that I know you've got your hands full. But I try to keep you in raspberry jam, because I know how Brent he likes it, and we're proud of him and Aaron both. Okay. And I love you, and be good the rest of your life. Get to church and tell Jesus thank you for all you have, because you've made a good life and don't have to worry about money.
Well, I met Grandma Lorraine in September of 1984, and I was interviewing people for the job of a caretaker for my first wife, who had emphysema and anorexia and the whole thing. And I'd interviewed three people, two other people that day for the job. I'd hired people for a year before that, but I was engaged in farming at the time, and I needed to make a living, and everybody wanted to quit at 5 o'clock. Well, I had 5 hours of daylight after that. So I asked or told people around that I needed some help that would stay a while. So on that particular day, I had two ladies in front of Lorraine. I didn't know Lorraine at all. I just heard about her from the fellow at the co-op who knew her and knew she would be good help if I could get her to work. But I kept calling her, and she kept going to Minnesota on me all the time and wouldn't come and interview. So that particular day, there were two ladies came, and we interviewed both of them and didn't care for either one. And then all of a sudden, here came an old Chevrolet with the muffler off of it, making a lot of racket. And here come a lady, and she says, "I'm Lorraine." And I told her to come in, and we went over the job, what it entailed. And she said, "Well, the house is too big, and I'm just used to taking care of one person at a time. But here I was, and here my son Paul was, not married, and wanted to eat here, and this and that." And she said, "It's just too big a house and too much work. I just don't feel like I can handle it." So actually, I got on my hands and knees and begged her to come to work try it for 2 days. And you know, she said her Christian duty was to, if I needed help so bad, she better come and help me. So she came, and she spent 5 years and 5 days working for me. Best thing that ever happened to me or Leona, the best thing. Then after Leona passed away, which was in the 5 years, Lorraine wanted to go back to Minnesota, and did. But I couldn't hardly wait for her to get back home, because I needed to visit with her and talk to her and maybe go further. Anyway, we talked about, you know, the last month and a half was pretty stressful around here with Leona. I said, "You know what we need to do? We need to take a trip to someplace." And